Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the situation here in Spain. Day 60 of the current crisis. That's right, I'll say it again. Day 60. Who would have thought, eh? 60 days in this situation. Lockdown, phases, new normal, all of these new words that have crept into our vocabulary and this new way of living that we're going to have to put up with for the near future. Now, thanks again to all of the people that left comments on the last video. There was lots of comments there, lots of debate happening. Big thanks to all of the people that decided to support the channel through a small donation. You can see your names here. Thanks to the people that bought a t-shirt, and a big shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You can find links in the description below on how to support the channel. Now, let's get into some of the news that has caught my attention over the last couple of days. And of course, here in Spain, it's all about phase 1 for 51% of the population, and it's all about phase 0 for the rest of us. And there's lots of comments coming through on people how they spent their first days in phase 1, what they got up to, whether they managed to get out and go for a drink, have a coffee on a terrace somewhere in Spain. We'll have a look at a few of those comments at the end of the video. But as we can see here, Seville, the largest city in Spain in phase 1, prudently assumed the de-escalation. The Andalusian capital wisely assumes the return to the terraces and shops. The novelty has become more evident in the neighborhoods than in the city center. However, it didn't all go according to plan in many of these places that went into phase 1, as there were lots of places that were fined for not being able to adhere to the new rules in place, specifically the new rules that limit the amount of people that are allowed to gather at these locations, bars, restaurants, coffee shops, etc. And we can see here that the local police had to sanction places in different parts of Spain. For example, in Santander here for bypassing the rules of the state of alarm. Another one here in Vitoria-Gasteiz in the Basque Country. Local police fined 7 bars and increase surveillance on terraces. And we can see that many bars have even decided not to open this Tuesday due to the risk of lack of control in their establishments. And there were also many other cases of this where the local police had to shut down bars because people just weren't able to adhere to the new rules. People were gathering in groups. There was not a lot of social distancing going on in some places. Some places had the tables set up outside too close together. And of course, the local police were called in to shut them down. However, I will say that this does seem to be the minority of places. The majority of places that opened were able to adhere to the new rules. But of course, there's always some places and some people that just find the new rules too difficult to adhere to, and hence the fines. Now, Brussels has apparently set standards for the de-escalation in the EU, 3 phases, and the objective of saving part of the tourism industry. The European Commission raises levels from 0 to 2 for countries as contagions decrease to gradually withdraw border controls. And another one here says that the EU could reopen borders to tourists in a recovery plan. Travel will be recommended between countries with similar risk profiles, a draft report says. So some good news there for the tourist industry, and also for people that were considering coming to Spain on holiday. There could be some reopening of these borders, but of course it seems to be within the EU and countries with similar profiles. And we can see here that Spain, Italy, France and Germany prepare summer flights without quarantine when possible. We've formed a working team between the 4 transport ministers of these 4 countries, and we have already drawn up lines of intervention, says the Italian minister. So again, some good news there for people that were planning on coming to Spain this summer. Now, the government here in Spain, led by the Prime Minister, Mr. Sanchez, has also said that he plans changes to the alarm state and will request it for another month. The government plans changes for the 5th extension of the state of the alarm, which will have to be authorized by the Congress next week. And he might even ask for a month extension and not the usual 15-day extension that he has been doing until now. So the government here keen to hold on to those extraordinary powers that they have with the state of the alarm in place. Now, some good news here for people in Valencia and Andalusia especially, and we can see here that the health department has suggested that Andalusia, Valencia and Castilla-La Mancha will go to phase 1. Madrid is also confident of moving forward, although it has problems controlling mobility. Now, of course, this relates to the displeasure in some of the regions here in Spain that weren't allowed to go into phase 1, even though they thought they were ready for it. Madrid, Valencia, and 2 provinces in Andalusia, Granada and Malaga, all thought that they were ready to go to phase 1, but the central government said no. So a high probability, according to the health department, that those specific areas are going to go into phase 1 soon. Not sure exactly when, but let's hope it's for some time next week, if not Monday. Now, the health ministry is also deciding whether they're going to make it obligatory for people to wear masks anytime they are outside. Remember that at the moment it's only compulsory if you're on public transport. So for example, if you go to the supermarket, you don't have to wear a mask, although it is recommended. But as we can see here, they are now studying as to whether to make it compulsory or not. And the ministry is going to ask the autonomous regions for their opinion to impose the use of this protection beyond transport during the de-escalation of the confinement. So it looks as though masks might become a compulsory part of our day-to-day. Now, the minority ruling party, Unidas Podemos, is seeking to make the minimum income compatible with temporary jobs. And we can see here that it will be received by around 20% of the population that is in a situation of severe poverty, that is, with an income of less than 30% of the average income. So there we go. They're going to try and make it compatible with temporary jobs. And what most likely will happen here is that people will receive this monthly income, do a few jobs on the side in the black economy, and come out with a nice little salary every month for basically doing nothing. Now, some news broke yesterday that Spain is now going to impose a 14-day quarantine on people coming into the country. And we can see here that the measure takes effect this Friday. Travellers will only be allowed to move to go to health centres, buy food, drugs, that's legal drugs, or essential goods, and will have to wear a mask. Now, I had a few people in the comments section say, what does this new law mean? Are the borders opening up again? Are people going to be allowed to come here to their second residences if, for example, they own a home here? And the answer, unfortunately, is no. And we can see here that Spain extends the closure of its borders to non-Spaniards and non-residents until May 24th. And a text in the State Gazette specifically states, the mere fact that a house is owned in Spain does not automatically give the right to residency in Spain. So there we go. So if you are in the UK and you have a house in Andalusia, if you have a house on the coast here, you're not going to be allowed to come here unless you are an official resident or a citizen. And we can see here in point number 2 that only the following people will be allowed to enter the national territory by land: Spanish citizens, residents in Spain, residents in other member states or Schengen associated states who go to their place of residence, cross-border workers, health professionals or elderly care professionals who are going to carry out their work activity, and those that have reasons of force majeure or situation of need. So again, if you're not a resident here in Spain, if you don't have a residency card, you can't come back to the country at the moment, except in one of those circumstances. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from the last video. Now the first one here from Roy, he says, "Hi Stuart, I enjoy your videos. I'm Spanish, but I live in the USA, and regarding the issue of living in flats versus homes, I can say with certainty that what we have here in the US is very enjoyable, with a house separated by green areas from your neighbours. On the other hand, this can be done here because of the gigantic size of the country. However, it is an untenable proposition in the long run. Think of travelling distances, price of gasoline, every family has at least 2 cars, public transportation is a joke. Everything from mail to goods are delivered from many miles away. All other services are provided, for example, water, sewer, electricity. The cost of all of this is, for now, feasible. I don't see how we can maintain this energy expenditure with dwindling natural resources." Yeah, Roy, it is a good debate. I know that in Australia we have a similar situation, that you need a car to basically get everything done. Even if you want to buy milk nowadays in Australia, bread in Australia, you have to take your car and drive to the local shop or supermarket to get those things. Cities in Australia are made for cars. Public transportation in many cities is a bit of a joke if you compare it to the ones here in Spain. The style of living in Spain is very compact. It's very efficient from that point of view. So there is an interesting debate. Do you have the compact cities or do you have the extended cities? What's your opinion? What's the best form of living? The US style, the Australian style, or the European style, which is a lot more compact? Leave your opinion in the section below. Another one here from DM Stuart, Dan here from Cangas de Onís in Asturias. a phase 1 area. I went out last evening to see how the locals were reacting to the limited reopening. About a third of the bars were open, only those with exterior seating available. Little social distancing in effect, greater than 50% occupancy in most, and fewer than 10% of us wore masks. Felt almost normal. The Guardia Civil coasted by at one point with no reaction. While I have been extremely impressed with Spain's general willingness to hold to the restrictions over the past 8 weeks, I fear that if the rest of Spain is acting in the same manner as here, we will be back in lockdown within a month. It may be a difficult summer and more. Yeah, Dan, you're right. It is difficult for people to adapt to the new situations, and there are people thinking that we might have to go into another lockdown situation if this virus gets out of control again. If people think that we can slip back into this normality without any type of consequences, we could be in for a bit of a problem. That's what some people are thinking. I think one of the biggest problems in Spain is that we went from this very severe lockdown into a phase 1 relaxation, and for a lot of people it's very easy to just slip back into those old habits of meeting your friends at a bar, having a chat, sharing a drink, etc. And again, for a lot of people here in Spain, it's a natural instinct. When you see a friend, you give them a hug, you give them a kiss, and those things are going to be hard to break. But hopefully we won't have to go back to the severe lockdown restrictions that we had in previous months. One here from Guderian: you haven't reported anything about the protests. People banging pots and pans from their balconies. I believe they call it cacerolada. Yeah, you're right. That's what they do call it when you go outside and bang your pots and pans in protest. And it's true, there have been a few of these going on over the last couple of months. In fact, in Madrid over the last couple of days, there have been a few protests in some of the more upper class areas in Spain. I would say that basically these are Partido Popular supporters that are taking to the streets in protest against Sanchez. And the reason I haven't mentioned these protests very much is because Spain is a country where people do protest a lot. Every weekend, normally there's a protest of some type. It's part of the DNA of the people here to protest. And you're always going to find here somebody who's not happy with something. And these protests are just the way of life in Spain. One here from Tony. He says, may I suggest we give generous tips to waiting staff in bars and cafes? They earn little enough as it is, and we are allowed to sit for as long as we like. And if on the coast, enjoy the views and people watching. Yeah, Tony, good suggestion. Always a good idea to give waiters a bit of a tip. For those of you that are not familiar with the tipping procedures here, it's not obligatory, it's not compulsory. It's not like it is in the States where you have to leave a percentage of the bill. I think even in the UK there's some type of service tax included in the bill on many occasions, but here in Spain it's not. Even if you give 50 cents, €1, €1.50 to the waiter, they normally do appreciate it. And you're right, Tony, salaries for this sector are not very high here in Spain. One here from Lynn. She says, hi Stuart, always look forward to your videos. Can you tell me, if you're over 70 and live in a hilly area, can you drive to a flatter area to do your permitted exercise? Well, Lynn, to be honest, I have no idea. I suppose that if you are in a phase 1 area, you could drive your car to an area and do exercise. If you get stopped, just tell them that you're going to do exercise and you don't like having to walk up hills. And I don't think the police are going to be too strict on that. But again, if anybody has any better information, in the comment section below, please. Another one here from Travel Addict Guy. Tag, they're treating us like children. What a hodgepodge of rules. Que mierda. Yeah, you're right. I think they are treating us a little bit like children here. The government obviously feels that's what they need to do. It seems that they don't trust the Spanish population to behave like adults, and the rules do seem to be very difficult to understand for a lot of the population. One here from Daniel. Thank you, Stuart, for your level-headed information and quite entertaining perspectives. My family and I follow you and find your service really helpful. We're Aussies living in Malaga province, not too bothered by not transitioning into phase 1 just yet, but like most, finding the at times illogical rules to lockdown tiring and frustrating. Best wishes to you and your family. Yeah, hi Daniel, good to see a couple of Aussies living down there in Malaga. I hope you're enjoying it. Yeah, again, the rules do seem to be a little bit illogical, bit contradicting and difficult to understand, but it's the way it is. There's nothing much we can do about it, and we're just going to have to try to interpret them the best we can and avoid getting fined. Another one here from Nicholas. He says, hi Stuart, we went out today together and shopped for tiles and DIY products. Then we found a cafe and had a coffee and breakfast. It was bliss. We were surprised at how few of the many cafes and shops were not taking advantage of the phase 1 benefits. Great post from you as always. Thanks. Yeah, Nicholas, that's the question. A lot of places are just not ready to go into phase 1. They don't have the necessary requirements in place, and a lot of places just don't think that it's worth opening for 50% of the terraced area. And as we saw at the beginning of the video, some places have even been fined. So imagine you open your business after 2 months and you cop a fine on the first day of operating. One here from Christine. She says, we're in the Basque Country, not a 0, but not a 1 either. We have phase 0.5. It's extremely frustrating to not be able to leave our immediate area. Yeah, Christine, I can understand that it is frustrating. I mean, 0.5, everybody has either 0 or 1. And in the Basque Country, you have 0.5. Again, I can understand it. Nobody can understand it, but it's the way the country seems to work. One here from Steve. Phase 1 in Cáceres, 1 bar has opened in the entire city. And that basically sums it up. 1 bar open in the entire city of Cáceres. So I can imagine it's going to be a pretty crowded terrace at that particular establishment. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions or comments, leave them in the section below. I'll let you guys debate the situation out as you normally do. Don't forget you can send me video comments if you like through Instagram or Twitter. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.